All right, guys, it seems like even Microsoft is kind of down and they don't really want to be in San Francisco anymore. They're going to be vacating roughly 50,000 square feet of office space. This isn't small amounts of office space, but this is enormous amounts of space that not any company will just give up. They only will give up hundreds of thousands of square feet. And these numbers, only the city is going through a crazy turmoil, crime type of deal. And that's exactly what's happening in San Francisco. You got drugs everywhere, crime everywhere, and people are just leaving. In fact, most of the small business owners have already left. And if you guys think 50,000 square feet by Microsoft is crazy, just remember that Microsoft is pretty much trying to sublease out 270,000 square feet of office space in the Bay Area in the recent months. It seems like Microsoft just kind of wants to leave this place. San Francisco used to be a very special place. It used to be like, okay, if you're in the tech world, you're going to have to move to San Francisco. Back in the old days, you move here, you get an office, you start a startup, and since you're close to the action, there's a lot of connections, a lot of talent. But now, after the pandemic, it seems like most investors weren't expecting people to just stay online. During the pandemic, people started noticing, oh wow, we can actually make more money by going online. We save hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate money by going online. Why should we even rent one of these crazy expensive offices? And not to mention, San Francisco after the pandemic was just a completely different city. You had crime going outside the Tenderloin. It's no longer the Tenderloin, but there's a lot of crime, drugs, pretty much spreading all around the downtown area. Many of it's very good areas. The Mission District has just homeless encampments so bad people gotta buy planter boxes to prevent people from just sleeping here. So I kind of see why Microsoft is leaving. And most of the office workers, when they leave San Francisco, they don't really want to miss it. But at the same time, they do kind of miss the energy of what San Francisco has to offer. Like, if you've been here back in 2018, 2019, you kind of understood why it was like the most expensive tech city in the world. There's so much talent. There's hundreds of thousands of office workers on the streets every single day. And the vibes are incredible. Just feels like if you're in San Francisco, you just want to create something. But that feeling is gone with a lot of bars closing down, clubs closing down, and also some of the biggest real estate deals no longer is happening. And Microsoft is one of several companies that's pretty much trying to sublease out their office. Uber is successful. I think they're the only ones. They've managed to sublease out like almost 500,000 square feet of space to OpenAI, which is the guys behind ChatGPT. But of all the companies that are leaving, there's only a few companies moving in. So there's still a massive net outflow of people, and I have no idea why OpenAI even wants to come to San Francisco when most of the companies, new startups that got big, they don't come to the city anymore. They go to places like Las Vegas, Denver, Austin, Miami, Tampa. And we're also seeing many startups just pretty much hosting their company in their apartments or in their suburban houses and just working from home. And we're seeing that more often than ever before. So we're also having a big commercial office crisis in San Francisco because there's hundreds of small banks that have given out loans for several thousand of these buildings. And when several thousand of these buildings are going for dirt cheap prices, not exactly the best sign. And to show you how bad it's getting, not even luxury cocktail bars could bring office workers back. So if you look at this, San Francisco tech firm is shutting down its cocktail lounge because they just can't lure workers to the office. I'm not really sure why you're really serving alcoholic drinks to office workers. I guess one or two drinks wouldn't really hurt. But it just shows you that these high-end fancy amenities are not enough to bring people back to the office because it's not really worth it to commute 30 minutes to even an hour every single day just to go to the office, just to check out the cocktail bar lounge. It's not enough, right? And also, people, if you're commuting over an hour, you might as well just get an apartment in San Francisco, which people aren't willing to do. So online work is very profitable. I know a personal friend of mine who works in like the health insurance field. He's filling out 2 jobs. He's doing 2 online jobs just in the basement of his house, and he's making 6 figs. And he's like, I'll never go back to an office again. And many of just health insurance, for example, those guys are moving online, right? We're seeing suburban neighborhoods, smaller cities, and they have office space. It's completely empty. And many of them are actually turning to residential buildings. So yeah, happy hour and champagne is no longer needed in many of these offices. And we're seeing younger millennials, Gen Z, these guys all find new jobs or all opting in to just work online. Working online, honestly, is the vibe right now. Seems like there's more freedom and companies save more money. Companies like Charles Schwab gets to save almost $500 million every year just by moving most of their workers online. And that's $500 million they could spend in other departments. So that's what's happening here, right? And it's getting so bad that you have defaults every single week, big and small. So Swift defaults on a $62 million loan tied to a historical San Francisco office building. Used to be called the Sharon Building, has sat empty for 5 whopping years with not a single tenant really wants to come in. And like I said, this isn't the only building. All right, we have several buildings in San Francisco, like 350 California Street, this massive office building being sold for 80% off. We have several small retail stores dedicated to businesses and bars in the Mission District going towards a foreclosure route. And don't even get me started on the downtown area. This is where many of the massive skyscrapers now only have an average vacancy of less than 50%, right? Like vacancies of 30 to 50% isn't really that great of a number considering a lot of these buildings are still on insanely expensive mortgages, and with high interest rates, there's not going to be any investors who's willing to buy in. I mean, look around, right? You're seeing a lot of the home listings are down. A lot of sellers, they pretty much have given up hope. There's a lot of Airbnb guys who's in San Francisco that really want to sell their units, but they simply can't. If you go to places like Miami, for example, as hot as Miami is, there just seems to be an oversupply of Airbnb units. So if big Miami couldn't even do well in the Airbnb industry, what makes you think San Francisco is doing a good thing, right? San Francisco's Airbnb industry is getting so bad that out of 30 nights, landlords are only renting about 3 to 5 nights, whereas the old days, it used to be like 28. Sometimes even every single night, there's a tenant. So it's getting worse, right? And back to the Microsoft situation, Microsoft is one of the only few companies that still has a small presence in San Francisco. Like Airbnb, I mean, they've closed down all of their other offices and only have one, which is 888 Howard Street. But you got many big tech companies like Skills who just quietly pack up and then move to Las Vegas and proceeds to rent an office like over like 100,000 square feet. So this is what's happening here. I think San Francisco is going to be needing some pretty drastic things, or else they're not going to do anything, right? It's going to be hard for them to change. Rates of crime, homelessness at all-time high. I can't stress this enough. People are really, really frustrated at what the city is doing, right? You got insane amounts of homelessness. It's not normal to have people sleeping on tents and streets. And you also have like the APEC conference happening in San Francisco, which people are saying, is San Francisco even ready for this? Because the city has deteriorated so much. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment below and see you later.